Hi, this is Dr. Pike again this week for LDR 350, Leading with Communication. This week we're going to cover chapters 10 and 11, beginning with chapter 10, Establishing and Sharing Power. Looking for power. Power, authority, and influence are related. Power and leadership appear to be independent, but they work hand in hand. To the extent that followers are able to exert influence, they can also exert power. Looking for Power continued, what is power? They discuss it on page 184 of your text. Max Weber, in 1947, a sociologist, defined power as the probability that one actor within a social relationship will be in a position to carry out his or her own will despite resistance. Power is the ability to get things done and harness resources to achieve a goal. Today, power is defined as the ability to influence others, to influence their thoughts, values, and/or behavior. There can be no leadership without power because the leader's role is to persuade others to follow, so that together, leaders and followers can create and achieve shared goals. There are types of power. When we're looking at power, covered under page 185 of your text, coercive power, those in authority use threats, fear, or inducements, forms of payment, to manipulate others. Hitler used coercive power. Lobbyists rely on inducements. Generals give orders to the troops. It works, but what works best is attracting rather than manipulating. Getting people to buy into values rather than commanding them to do so. Command power coerces us to change what we do. Inducement power convinces us to give in for a payoff. Attraction power shapes what others want from us more subtly. Most leaders have dual roles of leader and follower. In his quote, Richard Haas, in 1999, compared this duality to a compass. North represents those for whom you work. South represents those who work for you. East represents your colleagues, those that work beside you. West represents those that are outside of your organization who have the potential to affect matters that affect you. Followers can often lead the leader. Recognizing the power of followers and sharing information with them grows the leader-follower relationship. Where does power come from? Leaders do not have formal authority to exert power. French and Raven in 1959 conducted a study on the basis of social power. They determined that power emanates from a dyadic relationship, one composed of an influencer and the one who is the influenced. There are 5 power bases. Referent power. Others want to identify with the person in power. They perceive them as a person that is attractive and possessing valuable resources or qualities. Expert power. Attributing knowledge and expertise to the power source. People find them to be credible, trustworthy, and relevant. Legitimate power. Others feel obligated to accept and respond to their influence due to the position or role the person occupies. Reward power depends on the person in power having the ability and resources to dole out rewards that others place value upon, such as granting others favors, invest in them, or give other rewards including social approval or praise. Lastly, coercive power. There are fear of undesirable consequences, threats. People often get people to do things against their will. They can inflict punishment and threaten others in order to get them to conform. Power has costs and benefits. Social exchange theory states that leaders should seek to maintain good relationships with their followers so the followers will be allies. Leaders help foster good relations by using their reward power and their ability to share valuable resources, contributing to others, depending on them, and wanting to work with or for them. Leaders should also work at cultivating support by sharing credit, granting favors, and helping others feel needed and important. Continuing on the power, cost, and benefit, if a leader loses favor in the eyes of the followers can use coercive power to punish the leader. When deciding which form of power to use, you must weigh advantages versus drawbacks. Reward power tends to boost performance, but it also increases costs. Legitimate power bows to the organizational hierarchy and is usually effective for eliciting obedience, but it is likely to decrease both task performance and satisfaction. Expert power tends to increase task performance and satisfaction in followers, but it is only effective when the followers share the leader's goals, a common vision. Referent power increases both task performance and satisfaction, but becomes less effective if used too frequently. It also takes significant time to develop. When power isn't equally distributed, the highs and lows of power. High power people have considerable capacity for affecting the outcomes of others. Low power people believe themselves to have a scant capacity for exerting influence. High power people tend to have an inflated opinion of themselves, typically think themselves more capable than what they are, and also usually do not have a clear understanding of how low power people perceive them. High power people believe deference and reverence are due to them. High power people try to intimidate low power people to maintain the status quo in order to protect their superior power. Being treated as incapable and helpless can make a person feel that way, and it contributes to the high power person's continued oppression and dominance. Psychologist David McClellan determined that people with a high need for power can make effective leaders, with the caveat that they also develop the ability to restrain the use of their power. And we segue into workplace bullies. Repeated attempts to dominate and humiliate others, persistent degradation and intimidation, undermining one or more persons via hostile and aggressive communication, such as false accusations, harshly criticizing, disregarding a person's feelings, silent treatment, yelling, and or verbally abusing a person in front of others, misusing confidential information, and sabotaging on-the-job performance. Ask yourself a question. Have you ever worked for this person? They promote their own power at another's expense. They equate power with force. They are selfish. Their appetite for control is insatiable. They incite destructive conflict to maximize the power differential. When we mob, it becomes a group of co-workers targeting one of their own to bully them. Empowerment. Empowerment of followers enhances the leader's power while at the same time inhibits their ability to abuse power. Empowerment increases worker job satisfaction and performance and fosters employee cooperation and collaboration. By facilitating the personal growth and development of employees, the sharing of power precipitates their own innovativeness and makes them less fearful of change because they feel they own it. It was their idea. Harry Sims and Charles Manns in 2001, and this is on page 193 of your text, state that leaders who empower others by helping them to lead themselves are super leaders that foster a climate conducive to independent thought and action. And may I add, it is an acceptable arena for risk-taking and people making honest mistakes. Leaders that refuse to share power are those that expect others to absolutely obey their every command, as well as those who are so insecure that they feel that they have to keep all the power to maintain their position. These are information hoarders. These persons will not tell you what's going on in your organization because they feel that knowledge is power, and to let go of any of it would be to let go of their own power. Self-leadership. Followers learn to lead themselves independent of an authority. This is different from empowerment, as empowerment requires the leader to be the catalyst. Self-leadership requires self-disciplined people. You have to know when it's time to work and time to play. Know how to create an environment conducive to working. Know what is needed to produce the quality work, and know that the key is to have passion for the work. Self-leadership or goal-setting people. They know that projects and goals become easier when broken down into steps. The old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Know that each step should have a due date and benchmark. Have the ability to have the positive self-talk when faced with a bump in the road. Self-monitoring and self-assessment. Now this has to be done honestly. You want to know not to expect feedback from superiors, and you don't need it to succeed. You can levy your own praise. And you can assess your own actions and provide your own rewards. So meeting those benchmarks, it's important to have some sort of reward system so you feel good and better about meeting those things. Now we whizzed through this tonight, and I want to say thank you. Chapter 11 is going to be a little longer than this, but I want to say thank you for your time, and on to Chapter 11.